Hi there, Pizzatomic here. If you've never heard of a creepypasta before, then you must be living under a rock. Basically, they're the internet equivalent of those creepy campfire stories people told when they were younger. A bit of a disclaimer before we start. Please do not harass anyone who made these stories. It's clear to me that they're still improving, not to mention most of these are kind of old. We all need time and effort to improve our craft, and some of these are just written for fun anyway. No hate is intended towards the creators, their stories are just a bit silly. With that out of the way, here are some bad creepypastas. It was May 2006 when I stopped playing Sonic 2 or any Sonic games. Let me tell you why it all started, late midnight in the warm summer. Okay, my family is asleep and my older brother had left out the Sega console with Sonic 2 on it. I walked up to the console and turned it on. The Sega logo went on, and once I got to the title screen it showed Sonic and Tails, and when I went to the option to choose Sonic and Tails, Sonic or just Tails. But there was a new option, and it was called Abel, and when I saw it I chose it just to see what it. When the game started, the stage wasn't Emerald Hill Zone, but it was called Abel's Hills. The green grass was now purple and the player was Sonic and Tails, but Sonic had purple shoes and Tails was normal still, but I just thought it was part of the new player mode. I moved Sonic forward, but he didn't move. Then I looked at the controller wasn't connected. And once I connected it, I moved the player and Tails followed, but once I hit the spikes, Sonic didn't take the hit. Tails did, and I kept all my rings, but Tails died. Tails fell through the world like you do when you hit something without rings. Sonic ran across the map hitting and attacking the bugs, but he couldn't press the button on the cage that would free the animals, and Tails never did return. I went back and tried to find Tails, which is a bad idea, when I went back to the start. Tails was turned away from me and his eyes were closed. When I got real close to Tails, he opened his eyes and they were blank white. And when he opened his eyes, a ring sound was heard. It went black for 5 seconds, then I was in the Green Hills zone. But Sonic had no eyes like Tails did, and Tails was black and his eyes are green. I moved Sonic, but in this zone there were no rings and no music, or enemies. But Sonic didn't go fast, just went slow. Tails was flying over Sonic the whole level, but once Sonic made it to the end, Tails flew back to the start of the level again and the screen went black. Then it showed the title of a zone name and it was called Tag. Once I started, I was in Marble Zone and Tails had black and red eyes now. Tails flew away and I moved Sonic forward as the fireballs were gray and so was the lava. The only enemy was the wasp robots, but only shot out blood pixels and they looked sad. I moved more into the level, and once I made it to the first checkpoint, Tails was on the edge of the platform and had his eyes closed. I slowly walking to him and also tried to jump over him as the screen turned black and a text showed, "Trying to get me or run away?" After 15 seconds it showed the Green Hill Zone Stage 2. Sonic had a darker pixel skin color now, but still had no eyes. I tried to run, but it was still walking through the map, and after 5 seconds of trying to run, Tails was flying behind me and his pixel art was just a purple Tails. But when he did a homing attack at me, I died, even if I had rings too. Tails would walk behind me when I was close to the end, and once I did touch the end, the game crashed and showed all kinds of colors when it was glitching. Once the screen was normal, I spawned into the zone called Abel's Hill Zone 2. I walked forward and Tails was in front of me now, and he looked at Sonic, and he stepped back as he summoned a wasp, and it once shot Sonic. Sonic fell back and blood poured out of Sonic. Tails walked over to Sonic, stepped over him, and sat on him! I looked at the screen as Tails turned to me. Only his head, and he had no eyes, just blank whiteness. I turned off the console and went to sleep feeling a pain in my stomach, but I went to sleep anyways. I woke up the next day, but I felt the pain still, so I felt under my stomach, and I felt markings, so I went to the bathroom, and there were carvings that spelled out Abel. I went to the Sega console, and it was red, as the TV was static until I turned on the console, and when I do, Tails had a text box that said, "I'm not Tails. I'm not your damage taker. I'm Abel." Once the text box was gone, the Tails sprite flew away, then the screen went glitch, and when it stopped, it showed Abel purple with glitch around it. The Sega console started to smoke as it burned as well. I'll see you in the next Sonic game, Alex. All you gotta do is choose Abel mode. A text box said as the TV shut off and the console was destoried, and I threw it out and went to go buy my older brother a new one. "Hey kid, don't go without your free copy of Sonic 3, the man at the cash register said as I turned, and I felt my side felt pain. I knew I didn't want it. "No, you keep it for yourself, sir." Yeah, at least he's nice. That was certainly a story. Do you know Little Big Planet, the game with the cute sack people? Apparently it was delayed because of some controversial lyrics. Well, that's not truly the case. I had this game on pre-order and it arrived to me before the delay was even announced. That day I was awoken by a doorbell. It was the UPS with my LBP disc. I was so happy. My little sister wanted to play the game so much, and she started up the PS3. I went to get myself a drink. When I came back, she was already watching the intro, and the first level came up. At first, it was all normal, but then I noticed that something was off. The king sounded differently, perhaps more worried, and the queen wasn't there. We went through the first level, and things were weird. The game was getting darker. The king said twisted things. The queen was missing. We finally unlocked the Create Moon, but except for Stephen Fry's tutorial, we only heard faint crying. There already was a level on the moon, so we decided to check it out. It was a perfect replica of the house we lived in. It even had cutouts of me and my sister playing. I was scared. All parts of my brain were screaming, "Turn it off!" But curiosity got the hold of me. I started to mess with the level. I decided to set my sister's cutout on fire. What I heard next was the most painful thing I've ever saw and heard. My sister was screaming. She was burning. In a matter of seconds, my sister had exploded into a flaming ball of fire. Why would you set your sister on fire? Even if it was in the game, why would you? I mean, siblings, I guess. You know what? Never mind. She ran around the room screaming as she slowly burned. I was so scared, all I could do was sit and watch. You don't even try to- Oh my god, you didn't even try to put her out. After a few minuets, all that was left was a small pile of ash. Since that day, I've never played that copy. It sits on my shelf mocking me every day. It'd be nice if you had some evidence and you maybe showed us the copy. Nah, I don't know. That was something else, man. Abel was bad, but oh my god. Just to let you know before, you read that the cut on my leg was not intentional for the sake of this pasta. It was a fake cut using Halloween items. Okay. Hi guys, I have a little story for you about a fake Pokemon game card called Chaos Black. Now many of these were made and they were all the same crappy ghetto version of Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. But the version I got was one of the worst things that could happen to me with a video game. So how did I get my hands on this little game? Well, about 3 or 4 years ago, I can't quite remember, but it was around that time, I was at my local flea market, but over here we just call them the town markets. But anyway, I stumbled upon an interesting gaming stall. They had many Xbox and PS3 games, and hundreds of Game Boy games. I looked through Xbox and PS3 first. Nothing too exciting, but considering I didn't even have those consoles at the time, it was pointless. I then went over to the Game Boy area since I had a Game Boy Advanced, and thought they might have some cool and interesting games. I saw many legit game ands. They even had a Game Boy to test the games on, so we knew what we were buying was legit. But I didn't worry about it because I was too young to understand the point of giving it. So I looked through and saw many Pokemon games which I had played and finished already. But then I saw one in a NUCE, I do not know what that is, cool looking game box that had a AA Dark Diamond type of texture with a very weird looking Pokemon on it, which at the time I believed to be Mew 3. So I went up to the salesman and asked for the price, and he simply quoted $1. And I quickly reached into my pocket, handed him the coin, and ran towards my parents. I can't quite remember, but I think he said something before I ran. I don't remember what it was, but I found out later on. Once me and my parents got home, I immediately picked up my Game Boy and stuck the game in and played. When it started up, it seemed harmless enough. It had a normal looking intro, no bloody or violent imagery, just normal. Nothing was wrong with the title screen or anything like that. When I entered the game, it was exactly like Fire Red / Leaf Green, which I then thought that it was a spin-off like Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Crystal, Pokemon Emerald, etc. But I was wrong. As I went to Professor Oak to collect my Pokemon, they looked up and deformed. They didn't even look like Pokemon. I was so disappointed and ripped the game out and chucked it onto the ground. At this point I thought to myself, well, at least it was only $1, and then picked the game up and put it with my other Game Boy games and just went and watched TV. Till last week, I'd never played the game because of the disappointment, but last week I saw it laying on my shelf in plain sight, as if it was put there purposely, which is weird because I've changed my room a lot in that time, and I'm pretty sure I put all my Game Boy games on my top shelf, but I thought it must have fell or something. So I went searching for my Game Boy since I could play this game again and actually try and play it. I faux panned it and went to get my game, but it wasn't on the desk anymore. It was on my bed. Thought nothing of it and just started playing the game. And as I said, there was nothing weird about it apart from the totally f***ed up Pokemon. Back when I got the game, I was mad about it, but now I myself about how deformed the Pokemon looked. Like, one looks like a blob of blue jelly, and one that looks like a chili pepper, and a centipede had a kid. What? As I moved on through the towns, there seemed to be nothing wrong or anything like messed up glitches or anything like that. But once I reached Lavender Town, there was something wrong with the name, the layout, and the design of the town. Instead of saying Lavender Town, it said D3ATHVALL3Y. Numbers aren't cool, but it's Death Valley, obviously. Now I'm not going to lie, when I saw that, it freaked the hell out of me. I don't know why, but it did probably because of all the ghostly stories of Lavender Town and stuff, but that scared feeling soon went away as the town itself was even weirder. The town looked melted and destroyed. They Pokemon Tower's top had a huge destructive hole in it as if a missile hit it or something along the lines of that. The houses were melted and left with metal poles that would usually be in a real manufactured house. But the creepy thing about it is that you could see the insides of the houses, and the people that are usually inside are dead. They were just lying down with a blood patch under and around the bodies. Now at this point I was really scared. But there's more. The Pokemart and the Pokemon Center were on fire, and when you got close to them you could hear a faint screaming. But if you entered, the screams were highly loud and sounded too realistic to be in a game. It worried me, so I left immediately and traveled on to the next city, hoping everything would be normal there. On my way to what I was hoping would be Celadon City, I ran into many battles with my overpowered Pokemon with f***ed up names like Hunstrung Up to Roof, and Lives Drawcab, and I Must Redrum. Why? Upon reading the names of the Pokemon, I was scared because two were backwards and one was just weird. When reading the first one, I say to myself, Hunstrung Up to Roof. Hunstrung Up to Roof? Hun could be a nickname for a boy or girl in a relationship, and strung up to roof could mean hung and killed. And when I hit number 2, I lost every nerve in my body. It says, Lives Drawcab, but when I looked at it backwards, it says backwards evil, backwards live equals evil. And when I thought of that, I was terrified to read the uncode the next one. When I got to it, the Pokemon turned out to be a Charizard that was level 87, but with red eyes, a black body, and a chopped off arm. I saw this and felt sick. This almost ruined my childhood, but the name, it was horrible. It says, I Must Redrum, and I split it up to see what it said. I Must Redrum, and I always knew what Redrum backwards was, I Must Murder. Once decoded, I actually started crying as my childhood was burned. The Charizard used an attack I never heard of before called Apocalypse. It sounds cool, but it made all my Pokemon faint instantly and I blacked out. Usually a black screen would appear for about 2 seconds, but this lasted for 5 minutes. But after the 3 minutes, I got a 7-framed shot of the Charizard staring at me! Directly at me, and it looked hyper-realistic, and it had the scream that I heard from the people at the Pokemon Center and Pokemart in Lavender Town, but it sounded so clear, like it was coming through surround sound speakers, and not the Game Boy speakers. Once the blacking out finished, I woke up in the Pokemon Center in Lavender Town for 10 seconds with flashing images of that terrifying Charizard I saw. And then it blacked out again, and I woke up in another Pokemon Center, but I wasn't sure where because it didn't tell me. But when I went outside and it turned out to be Celadon City, but the name was changed, just like Lavender Town, but the name was Better Heal, and I wasn't scared as much as I was confused, so I thought I should go heal my Pokemon. When I talked to Nurse Joy, she says her normal scripted lines, but also something else. She quoted, I'm sorry sir, but your Pokemon are dead. I'm sorry about that scratch on your leg that I can't fix either. Sorry sir, but I hope to see you again sometime. After I heard that, I checked my Pokemon and there was none. I was deeply scared, and then I checked my gamer card, and the trainer's leg had a torn part of his pants and a red scratch. But then the Charizard quickly appeared on the screen, and stayed there with that creepy demonic face and then a text box saying, I did it, over and over again. Then he went away and it scared the living shit out of me. But then what got me was what happened next. The town's name changed again to CH3KURL3G. I quickly decoded it and it said, check your leg. So I did, and what I saw made me shit myself literally. There was a scratch there in the exact position that was on the trainer's leg. The screen went black, and the screen appeared with text that said stop playing and never play again. I shut off the game immediately and pulled the card out instantly and went to my parents and told them. They did believe me, but not completely thinking that it could have been a dream. But when I showed them my leg, they got a little creeped out. The next Sunday, we went to the markets again, and I went looking for the same stall that I went to 3 years ago, and it was in the exact same spot. Wow, their dedication for that is unreal. And I brought the game and yelled at him furiously and quoted things like, did you f***ing know about this? And what the f*** is wrong with you? He then whispered to me, didn't I tell you to have fun? And that's when I remember what he said to me 3 years ago. Have fun if you can! So yeah, those are my picks. I plan to do this more often, so if that interests you, feel free to check back another time. I'll also continue my occasional animations and such. Have a nice day!